I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 10 o'clock. And if you would join me, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public notice, please, Madam Secretary.
Adequate public notice has been given pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice having been posted at the board's office and website and emailed to the Department of State and to newspapers of broad circulation within the state.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Holden?
Here.
Commissioner Solomon?
Still here.
Commissioner Crystal DeLue?
Here.
And President
I haven't left yet. Next regularly scheduled meeting.
The next regular board meeting will be held on Wednesday, May 10th, 2023 at 10 a.m. It'll be a hybrid meeting in person at the board hearing room at 44 South Clinton Avenue in Trenton and live streamed via YouTube.
Very good, thank you. We do have an executive session today, and when we come back from that executive session, we'll have some opening remarks and get the meeting going. The executive session is going to involve clean energy item 8A, an agreement between the board and the State University, Rutgers. Would the Attorney General's office read the reason for going into executive session?
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Commissioners. Clean energy item 8A falls within the contract negotiation and attorney-client privilege exceptions to the Open Public Meetings Act. These exceptions are found in New Jersey Statute 10:4-1237.
Thank you very much. And as you can see, there are only three of us up here. Commissioner Holden is in the phone, and as you well know, as I mentioned at the last meeting, Commissioner Gordon retired. And again, I'm sure we all want to thank him for his service, and I know the governor does for his service, not only as a board commissioner, but as a state senator and assembly person. He has dedicated a good portion of his life to the state of New Jersey, and we thank him for that. May I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We'll be back. I don't anticipate a long time. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, a day, 2 days, but nothing.
It's the journey that's...
Okay, we're back in regular session. Thank you for your patience. And we will be taking action on the item we discussed in executive session in open session. Consent agenda.
On consent agenda items 1A, 3A, 3B, 5A, and 6A.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal DeLu,
Yes.
and President Fodeliso.
Yes, and I'm a little upset no one congratulated me on remembering the consent agenda. Because I generally forget that. I just have a few opening remarks, more than a few, actually. So bear with me as I try to read through these. I first of all want to welcome everyone. Not only those here in the audience, but those who are streaming us live. We're so happy you joined us and get a better idea of how we operate and what we do here at the Board of Public Utilities. Just give me a minute. Surgery's not until Monday. So hopefully after that, I'll be able to read again.
You will.
Today is Administrative Assistance Day. And I certainly hope that within each division, your administrative assistant is being recognized. As you might have read, did send something out, and in it I said, and I mean this, the administrative assistants are the glue that keep our agency together. They are a bunch of great, great people, and some have spent their entire career here at the BPU, and some right from high school or college or wherever they came from. And it's not unusual to see somebody here for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. When one of my administrative assistants retired, she was here for close to 40 years. And so it's a testament, I think, to the board and to those dedicated people who really make our lives so much easier and serve the citizens of the state of New Jersey. So we love you guys, and we're happy you're with us. I want to thank the governor for making this proclamation, which is part of Call Before You Dig month, which is April. And we know the importance of that. And we're reminded of it, unfortunately, when there's a severe accident. So it's important. And some folks think, well, I'm just planting a tree. Well, you got to dig pretty deep in your backyard or your front yard to plant that tree. You don't know what you're going to hit. So the idea is to try to be safe. And if Frank is here, Frank Gaffney? Yes, sir. Frank, would you come up and accept this on behalf of the board? And on behalf of the Division of Reliability and Security.
Thank you so much, sir.
You guys do a great job. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, let's see what else I can read here. I may ask for your help.
Certainly.
take care of this disabled guy here. Let's see, what do we have here? Bear with me, folks. Last week, we were represented at two really important events. First one was a week ago Monday, where we had our broadband conference, and it was well attended from all accounts, not only in people personally being in the audience, but also people following, I believe, on the feed. So broadband is extremely popular, obviously, and as I've said before, we have really learned from the pandemic how important it truly is. And it's important primarily for those folks who work from home, either full-time or part-time, work from home, and for our youngsters. Because in some cases, some of our youngsters missed 2 years of schooling, and they didn't have any access to broadband. So, the federal government, in conjunction with the state government, in conjunction with the BPU, because we are the lead agency in this, set up a commission to issue a report by the end of the year and how we can make broadband accessible to all New Jerseyans. And you can't express the importance of it. It has become our right hand as a society. I mean, leave your house without your phone. You feel like you forgot to put your pants on or something. I mean, you run back. You may be 10 minutes from your house, but you run back and get that phone. So our dependence on this type of technology is becoming more and more and more, and some say maybe too much. But it's something that our children need. Children cannot afford to miss 2 years of schooling. It's just not good, even just from a socialization point of view. Socializing with other youngsters of their age. So, we again, the BPU, is leading the charge to ensure the fact that broadband is accessible to every household in this state, and that's our goal. So it's something I know we're all excited about, that we are a part of that, and so on. Now, we have some new employees, and it seems like we keep hiring, and we have to keep hiring. And we have put a moratorium on retirements. Nobody's allowed to retire. Nobody's allowed to leave. The doors are locked. No, obviously, I'm kidding. But we are finally getting to the point, we think, every time we hire a group of people. If you remember the last time, I think we introduced 8 or 9 new employees. Today we have, I think, 5 new employees. And every time we hire a rather large group, we say, okay, we're really on the move, and then somebody retires. Or somebody moves on. Back to the drawing board. for the responsibilities that this agency has, we need a full complement as far as our workforce is concerned. And that's our goal. And we continue to hire, we continue to seek hirees, and we have been so fortunate in being able to hire outstanding individuals. And it says a lot for the agency. There are people who want to come here, people who want to be a part of what we do on the regulatory side and on the clean energy side. So it's my honor to have the new folks stand up. We're going to put you on the spot. There's nobody here? New folks. Okay. What I would like is for you to introduce yourselves and tell us where you came from, and we can start with the young lady in the back.
My name is Dipali Patel.
You're going to have to talk louder, Donna.
My name is Dipali. I'm coming from DCA. I'm going to be working in fiscal and budget and fiscal.
Well, welcome. Now, we're not above stealing people from other departments. I just want that to be me. Okay, next, please.
I'm Casey. Nice to meet you all. Brand new as well, and working with SES.
Welcome.
Thank you.
My name is John. I work for Office Services. I come from the Department of Health.
And John, what's your last name?
Herman.
Herman. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
And we stole him too.
Hi, I'm Shanita Boone. I am an agency service representative in customer assistance, and I'm coming from the Mercer County Criminal Courthouse.
Wow, welcome.
My name is Melanie Austin. I'm coming from the Division of Family Development, and I'm Agency Services Rep 3 in the Division of Customer Assistance.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Let's give him a round of applause. As I said to you the other day when you started on Monday, and one person started yesterday, we try to operate as a family. And what I really mean by that is we help one another. We're here to make sure that everyone is successful in what they do. And that requires asking questions. Never be ashamed to ask questions. I've been here 17 years and I still ask questions. There's a lot of stuff that's going on here at the BPU. And some of it is rather complicated. So ask questions. We're here to help you. We're here to help you not only to adjust, but to learn. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay. Okay, we did that. Did any of my colleagues have anything to say?
Yes. I wanted to let everyone know that I have a new confidential aide, though he's not new to the agency. Carlito Almeida is now my aide. He was the aide to Commissioner Gordon. Stand up. And so if you need to contact me, please feel free to reach out to Carlito. You know him well. And, I'm just glad that I was able to keep him here at the board and have his assistance moving forward. So thank you, Carlito.
Good. So we don't have to... Well, we'll welcome you again, Carlito.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay.
He can work both sides of the aisle, obviously.
The Commissioner Holden, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, sir. It's just nice and toasty here at the water and wastewater meeting.
Stay away from the wastewater, please.
That's my specialty.
I'm almost sorry to hear that.
But I welcome the new personnel, and our doors are always open on the 7th floor. So glad for you to stop by anytime.
Good. Diane?
Yeah, and I just wanted to, echo what you were saying about asking questions. I've been here a long time too, and sometimes I ask the same question over and over again. Please don't hesitate to do that, because in this industry, it's better to have no answer or give no answer rather than giving the wrong answer. Can really end up being, dangerous, even in some instances, or harmful. So never feel stupid, because we've all been there, and don't be afraid of asking the same question over and over again. It's important that we get these things right when we move forward, whether it's customer service, SES, fiscal, regardless of where you are in the agency. It's really important that, we get it right when we do give an answer, and, I echo those sentiments and continue to ask questions myself. So, welcome.
Yep, indeed. And it's not only giving answers to outside entities, it's giving answers to us. And as commissioners, we all want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. We have to know the information in order to make intelligent decisions. And that depends on the information you give us. And that shows how much importance there is in the roles that you're undertaking. And we also like to have fun as we work along. And none of us have a sense of humor, so don't worry about it. And particularly me, I don't
Like to kid around.
I don't like to laugh, even though I can't read. But we're going to forge ahead, and just keep in mind, you're going to continue to keep the BPU on the map. Cable television, there are no items for discussion. Telecommunication, there are no items for discussion. That brings us to water. Is that you, Michael?
That's me. And energy.
What is he going to do first?
We're gonna
Do first.
do water and energy.
Which
first?
one first?
We'll do energy first.
Okay.
Okay, go.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners.
Good morning, Michael.
On June 1st, 2022, South Jersey Gas Company filed a petition seeking approval to modify the level of its basic gas supply service charges, increase the level of its balancing service clause charge associated with its Rider J general service, increase the level of its VSC charge associated with its Rider I large volume, and 4, modify the level of its conservation incentive program rates for the period October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023. By order dated September 7th, 2022, the board approved the stipulation for provisional rates executed by the parties, which authorized South Jersey to implement its proposed rates on a provisional basis effective October 1st, 2022. On February 14th, 2023, South Jersey Gas filed a notice indicating that it would self-implement a BGSS-P rate reduction effective March 1st, 2023. The parties executed a stipulation which would finalize the company's BGSS-P, VSC, and CIP rates, which was subsequently approved by Administrative Law Judge Irene Jones. Irene Jones issued an initial decision recommending that the board adopt the stipulation, and staff recommends that the board issue an order adopting the initial decision and stipulation and directing South Jersey Gas to file revised tariffs consistent with the order on May 10th, 2023.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments? Commissioner Holden, can you hear us okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. No questions or comments. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, First Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal DeLu,
Yes?
and President Fiordaliso.
Yes. Continue on then, Michael.
On February 1st, 2022, Rockland Electric Company filed a petition requesting a review of and approval to reconcile costs and revenues for its regional greenhouse gas initiative, or RGGI, surcharge, and to update the RGGI surcharge. The parties have executed a stipulation resolving all issues related to the petition. As a result of the stipulation, a typical residential customer will see an increase in their monthly bill of approximately 91 cents or 0.8%. Staff recommends that the board issue an order approving the stipulation. Staff further recommends that the board direct Rockland Electric to file revised tariffs prior to June 1st, 2023 for service rendered on and after June 1st, 2023.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal DeLu,
Yes.
and President Fiordaliso.
Yes. You're on a roll, Mike.
On November 1st, 2022, Public Service Electric and Gas Company filed a petition seeking cost recovery of investments within its Energy Strong 2 program placed into service from February 1st, 2022 through January 31st, 2023. The parties have executed a stipulation resolving all issues. As a result of the stipulation, a typical residential electric customer will see an annual increase of $6.88, and a typical residential gas company will see an increase in their annual bill of $2.42. Staff recommends that the board issue an order approving the stipulation. Staff further recommends that the board direct PSE&G to file tariffs consistent with its order prior to May 1st, 2023.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal DeLu,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes.
On November 15th, 2022, New Jersey American Water Company.
Mr. President, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'll be recusing myself from this matter.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
On November 15th, 2022, New Jersey American Water Company filed a petition requesting approval to modify its purchased water adjustment clause and its purchased wastewater treatment adjustment clause. Middlesex Water Company and the Mount Laurel Municipal Utilities Authority were granted intervenor status in this matter. New Jersey American, board staff, and the Division of Rate Counsel have executed a stipulation of settlement resolving the company's requests. The stipulation agrees to an increase in annual revenues of $6,994,000 or 0.84%. Middlesex and Mount Laurel have filed letters indicating non-objection to the stipulation. The change in the PWAC rate would result in a change of the annual bill for customers under the company's statewide general metered service rate would increase by 44 cents a month or 0.67%. The PSTAC rate changes would result in changes depending on where you live. A monthly decrease for sewer service in Lakewood Township in Ocean County bill will increase by 30 cents a month. A monthly decrease for sewer service in Lakewood Township, Ocean County of 30 cents a month. Sorry about that. A monthly increase of sewer service in Ocean City and Cape May County would increase by $1.30, and a monthly increase for sewer service in the Adelphia section of Howell Township, Monmouth County of $1.78. Staff recommends that the board adopt the stipulation. Staff further recommends that the board direct New Jersey American to file tariffs consistent with its order prior to May 1st, 2023.
So moved.
I'll second it. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Thank
it,
you.
Michael?
That's it. Okay.
We're not going to see you anymore today?
Not today.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to reliability and security. Frank?
Good morning, Mr. President, Commissioners.
Good morning, Frank.
Staff is proposing to readopt with non-substantial changes the board's existing rules contained within the New Jersey Administrative Code, NJAC 14:7, natural gas pipelines. These rules address the construction, operation, and maintenance of intrastate natural gas transmission and distribution pipelines and provide a mechanism to address violations of these rules. The rule proposal at NJAC 14:7 was published in the New Jersey Register on October 17, 2022, and will expire on June 14, 2023. NJAC 14:7 is necessary and appropriate, and that the rules will help ensure that New Jersey utility customers will receive safe, adequate, and proper service. The board collected comments from stakeholder community for a period of 60 days through December 16, 2022. Staff recommends that the board approve the proposed readoption of this chapter with non-substantial changes for submission to the New Jersey Office of Administrative Law and publication in the New Jersey Register.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments for Frank? Roll call, please.
On a motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal DeLu,
Yes.
and President Fiordalisa.
Yes. Good job, Frank.
Thanks, sir.
You and your team. Thank you. That brings us to clean energy. And I think Mr. Hunter, you're up. No? You're not Mr. Hunter.
I think he just stepped out for a second. Let me just check and see if he's here. Sorry.
That's all right.
I think we're moving so quickly today. Do you mind if I sit in?
Not at all.
Okay, great.
I'd prefer you than Mr. Hunter.
The door just opened. You might be back. We'll hold our comments to ourselves, though.
Okay.
Okay. We like a little suspense.
I wonder where he was.
Scott, you're up. No problem.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes, sir.
you're up.
Thank you for waiting for me.
Well, we were going to come where you were to pull you out, but
President Fiordalisa, before I get started on this agenda item, I'd like to announce that 2022, the numbers are in on solar performance in 2022 that show that 2022 was a record year for solar installation in New Jersey.
Scott wasn't following?
Thank you.
yeah, amen. We just keep moving up the ladder, don't we, Scott,
Yeah, and-
as far as solar is concerned?
Yes, sir. It was a record in total, 455 megawatts, but also nearly a record for the non-residential commercial market segment, net meter market segment, and I expect we'll learn that we exceeded that as well when all the numbers come in.
Wonderful.
So this matter is regarding the dual-use solar energy pilot program and a grant agreement that's Division of Clean Energy staff is recommending the board engage with the Rutgers University Agrivoltaics program to facilitate the development and management of the board's dual-use solar energy pilot program. The Dual-Use Solar Act signed by Governor Murphy on July 9th, 2021 requires the board, in consultation with the Secretary of Agriculture, to adopt rules establishing the program. The program is designed to demonstrate and study the compatibility of agricultural or horticultural production with solar photovoltaic infrastructure on the same property. Dual-use solar is also known as agrivoltaics. The program will provide incentives to qualifying solar electric generation facilities located on unpreserved farmland, which plan to maintain the land's active agricultural or horticultural use. Dual-use solar can provide farmers with an additional stream of revenue, assisting with farm financial viability, enabling continued agricultural, horticultural production of land, while also increasing the statewide production of clean energy. Staff have engaged in discussion with members of RAP on potential roles and responsibilities for their team in facilitating the development and management of the pilot program. A scope of work was developed in collaboration with RAP, which identifies various tasks from initial program design through to final evaluation of the program. Staff recommends the board approve a grant agreement with Rutgers University for the program's development, implementation, and evaluation services, as outlined in the scope of work, in accordance with the terms and conditions in the Treasury-approved grant agreement.
So moved.
Second?
This is a monumental achievement that has been under discussion for a long time. And the banner year that we had last year in solar, now with the addition of eventually dual use, has so many benefits for the agricultural industry here in the state of New Jersey, particularly for that smaller farmer, where revenue can be achieved, may keep them in business. And as everything, we take things step by step to ensure, part of the Hippocratic Oath, if you're a doctor, is do no harm. Well, we don't want to do any harm. So we take it step by step. We consult the experts, see if it works. What are the downsides? What are the upsides? And then we make a decision. And we're going to see dual use on many farms, other than preserved farmland. So this is another step forward in New Jersey being a lead in the solar industry. And I say this all the time, so forgive me, Scott, and my audience. Scott and I are probably, well, Scott more than me, been around when the solar industry started, pretty much. And Scott and the solar team has seen this grow. I think, and if I'm not saying this right, Scott, please correct me, beyond expectations.
You're right.
And the solar industry is thriving. It employs almost 7,000 people in the state of New Jersey and continues to grow. And that's all because of the efforts of people like Scott and the entire solar team, who continue to work hard to keep New Jersey in the forefront as far as solar installations is concerned. Back when I joined the board, and Scott was here before me, back in the early 2000s, I mean, we had minimal number of solar installations. Am I correct?
Correct.
We now have well over 160,000 solar installations. And when these numbers are publicized, we're going to see how much energy the solar arrays produce. Great job. It's exciting. We keep breaking records, and we have seen also, which is a very important factor, the cost of solar come down. And back in 2006 and 2007, Scott would tell me the cost will come down. I didn't believe him. The cost has come down. More competition, always brings, hopefully, the cost down. And there's a lot of competition out there now. Everybody wants to be involved. So, good job. Any other comments?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the important, one of the things that you just said about the competition, being involved in the development of, future solar in the state has been really important. We've had our ups and downs with, shall we say, different parties. I won't say specifically who, trying to get involved in the process, which has made it, difficult to, in some cases, I think you would agree, bring those costs down. But I think through the efforts, in the past couple of years at the board with the new programs and ways that we're, compensating solar is, really a tribute to the board in bringing those costs down and making it more affordable for, everyone and not just for those who can afford to put it on their roofs. And, basically, those who can't afford it are paying for those who can. So, we're constantly moving, community solar program's a good illustration of that. And just the efforts of the board to keep the ranges of megawatts within the market segments, I think has been a real boon to making this a program that can work more effectively. And I know in large part, you're the one that we should be thanking for, keeping on top of that and working with those who would maybe try to interfere with that process. I think it's really a tribute to you and the team that we've been able to do that. With respect to the agrivoltaic submission and the efforts of Rutgers moving forward, the deliberative way that we're approaching this with the Department of Agriculture, as President Friedrich said, is really important. We want to get it, again, we want to get it right, because if we don't get it right, we're a small state with only a certain amount of land to have our, farmland. You don't want to ruin it and then suffer the consequences. So it really is important that we move forward in a deliberative way and cooperative way to make sure that when we do employ this type of solar array, that we do it in a way that protects New Jersey's farmland. So that's very important for the state.
Good points. Yes, sir.
If I could just add two quick things. First of all, to extend my great appreciation to the board and to all the staff over the decades who've really fostered this industry, because competition, of course, is very important, but it's the economies of scale that really drives prices down and innovation. And if it weren't for what the board had encouraged in the industry, I don't think that we would be experiencing the great cost reductions and then the greater adoption rates that we are now. So really congratulations to everybody. And in specific with this dual use program with Rutgers, I'm very encouraged by the pilot program and the recognition that we seem to imply to the outside world that we're going to get this right. We're going to do this pilot program, try and learn the process, learn if there are any things we can improve, and objectively take a look at the results before we can implement larger programs in the future. So I think it's very encouraging for all of New Jersey, and congratulations, Scott, to your team and to everyone. Really wonderful job.
Well said, thank you.
Commissioners, we've got a great team, and we've got more staff now than we've ever had.
Good.
But we also work closely with Council's office and our contractors, TRC, that equally share in this celebration.
And my colleagues mentioned two items. Obviously, the dual use, which is an exciting program, but also the community solar, because the community solar has brought clean energy to many of our underserved communities who never had the opportunity or the wherewithal to put solar, or maybe don't have their own rooftop. They live in an apartment building. Everybody has to be involved. Everybody has to have the opportunity to be involved in the clean energy efforts here in the state of New Jersey for us to be successful. We can help lead the way with the governor, but people have to be enthused about it too and see where it benefits them financially and otherwise. So these are two really very exciting programs.
And I just want to say, you mentioned that it's clean energy here in New Jersey, as opposed, you can, retail shop, but the uniqueness about that community solar program is that it's here in the state. And, that was always, a very important part of that program for me, and I think, others sitting at this dais, so just want to point that out.
Good, thank you. Scott, did we vote?
No.
No, let's vote. See, I get carried away and I forget to vote.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal DeLu?
Yes.
And President Fielder-Lusso?
Yes. Scott, you have item C too, or is somebody else doing
Item
it?
C, but there's an item B as well.
No, I know that. I was going to skip over since you're sitting there.
Oh, sure.
If nobody has an objection to have you just do C, and then you can,
Challenging our new secretary.
put your feet up and relax.
Item 8C is regarding the motion for reconsideration filed by CEP Renewables. In response to the board's August 17, 2022 order granting an extension opportunity in the Transition Incentive Program for applicants seeking eligibility for TRECs pursuant to subsection T of the Solar Act of 2012. The August 2022 order addresses an extension of time to complete program requirements for projects that have been granted conditional certification or will receive conditional certification of their application pending review by staff and the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. These projects are what we refer to as grid supply projects, meaning they sell the power in wholesale electricity markets operated by PJM Interconnection, LLC. Most, if not all, of the projects have been or will be subject to delays resulting from the backlog of new generation interconnection requests at PJM. The exact length of delay depends on when the project entered the PJM queue, where it's located, and whether the project requires upgrades to the transmission grid. PJM has proposed reforms to the interconnection process to handle the backlog and improve processing times. However, PJM's filing recognizes that many pending filings will still be considerably delayed. In August 2022 order, the board found good cause to grant up to 2 extensions of 6 months due to the backlog in and proposed changes to the PJM interconnection process, which must be followed by all subsection T projects. The blanket extension was provided for eligible projects in order to provide certainty to those that were ready to move forward and to reduce administrative burden of addressing individual petitions. On August 30th, 2022, CEP filed a motion for reconsideration of the August 17 order. CEP asked that the board reconsider the length of extension provided in the order, alleging several errors in the board's characterization of the PJM process and surrounding circumstances. CEP subsequently supplemented its motion with additional filings on December 2nd, December 27th, and February 10th of 2023. In asking for a longer-term extension, CEP asserts that the board's order misstated PJM's timeline for projects that filed interconnection requests with PJM prior to September 30th, 2021, by stating that such projects were expected to complete the interconnection process between June 2025 and September 2025. CEP states that most pending subsection T projects will not obtain a final interconnection agreement with PJM until the end of 2026. CEP also contended that developers had no way of knowing how long the delay would be at the time that the TI program was closed. In response to CEP's motion for reconsideration, staff makes the following 5 recommendations. Staff recommends that the board find that CEP has identified an error in the August 2022 order, which characterized the PJM interconnection timeline for subsection T projects that submitted an interconnection request between October 1st, 2020 and September 30th, 2021. The board clarify that projects that filed interconnection requests with PJM between October 1st, 2020 and September 30th, 2021 will have final interconnection agreements between September 2026 and November 2026. Find that this misstatement of the PJM timeline had no material effect on the board's determination to grant 2 6-month extensions to pending subsection T projects. That the board find that developers knew or should have known of the increasing delays in the PJM interconnection process for years before the close of the TI program to new registrations. And finally, staff recommends the board deny CEP's motion for reconsideration of the August 2022 order.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments for Scott?
If I could, just one
Sure.
quick thing. I know how seriously you took all of their comments and how the staff really worked diligently to question why they were being reviewed. And you came up, I think, with very just conclusions on that. But they were not simple decisions, and I know you didn't take it lightly, and I commend the process.
Thank you.
Good. Yes. If there are no other comments, roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
On a motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Christo DeLu,
Yes?
and President Fiordaliso.
Yes. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, sir.
Sawyer, you thought you were going to get away.
Skipping my turn.
Yeah, it is.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. President and Commissioners, this agenda item concerns 52 petitions for projects that are requesting entry into the Administratively Determined Incentive, or ADDI program. The ADDI program launched August 28th, 2021, and is open to residential projects, net metered non-residential projects equal or less than 5 megawatts, and community solar projects. Solar generation facilities are prohibited from registering in the ADDI program if they commenced commercial operation prior to the opening of the ADDI program registration portal or began construction prior to receipt of a notice of conditional registration. Additionally, the ADDI rules limit increases in project generating capacity after registration in the ADI program portal to 10% or 25 kilowatts, whichever is smaller. 44 customers with projects that received PTO, permission to operate, prior to the receipt of the notice of conditional registration, which necessarily entails having commenced construction prior to receipt, have petitioned the board to waive NJAC 14:8-11.4b to register in the ADDI program. While staff continues to believe this provision ensures solar incentives go only to projects that need incentives, especially in the context of capacity blocks in the ADDI program, staff believes that circumstances associated with the transition from the Transition Incentive Program to the ADDI program still warrant flexibility in the application of this restriction. Additionally, 4 residential customers with projects that received PTO prior to ADDI program launch have petitioned the board for a waiver of NJAC 14:8-11.4b. Petitioners contend that they have invested in solar panels at their homes in good faith and should be allowed to participate in the ADDI program to receive an incentive. Similar to the previous set of projects, staff is concerned that these projects will be stranded without an incentive in the absence of board action. Due to the recent change in incentive programs and the consequent potential for confusion among solar market participants, staff believes a waiver is appropriate and recommends that the board grant the petitions. Staff also recommends that the qualification life for these projects commence on August 28th, 2021, the opening of the ADDI program. The board has also received 4 petitions seeking a waiver of NJAC 14:8-11.5K for approval of solar facilities at a capacity that exceeds the size submitted in the initial registration package. The 4 systems were installed with size increases ranging from 11% to 33%, increasing their aggregate capacity from 32.5 kilowatts to 39.4 kilowatts. The ADDI program is still relatively new, and the megawatt caps included in the program did not previously exist. Staff notes that proposed amendments to the rules governing the ADDI program would permit an increase of up to 20% or 25 kilowatts DC, whichever is smaller, rather than 10% or 25 kilowatts. Staff recommends that the board grant the petitions that meet this new standard, and that the board grant staff the ability to address similarly situated projects in the same manner, pending the final adoption of the rule. Staff recommends that the petitions for projects with larger increases still be approved because of their small absolute increases and because of the novelty of the rule. This increase in capacity will not jeopardize the non-residential market segment capacity allocation. Altogether, staff recommends the board grant these 52 petitions and direct staff to monitor future requests for size increases.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments for Sawyer?
Question.
Yes.
You know, these requests are not asking us to revert back to incentives that were higher in order for them to continue to move forward. Is that
That's correct. They'd be able to
Yeah.
receive the current incentives that are available.
right? They're not asking for us to retroactively put them into, a higher category. I just wanted to note that for, we've received all kinds of requests,
We sure do.
with respect to waivers on the program, but, I think given, the reasonable nature of these requests, I would move forward. The other thing I would also mention, because we're, talking about the solar program and the expansion of it, with expansion comes, responsibilities in terms of developers and those getting solar to make themselves familiar with the rules that are in place so that we don't find ourselves in this position. And also, I think we have some new representatives here that we just hired from our customer service department. I think more and more calls may be coming your way too in terms of this industry. We have to make sure that everyone acts responsibly with respect to our rules, and also, does right by those, having this new type of energy generation on their either commercial buildings or their homes. So, just a note of caution moving forward. This is not, a blanket in terms of our waivers, as you said. If they meet those particular same set of circumstances, I can understand extending it to those. But we really would like to see compliance, or our staff is always available to contact too if there were questions. Avail themselves of reaching out to staff to make sure that they're in compliance and can get the subsidy that is being offered to them.
That's an excellent point, and we have over the years had developers do certain things and then come in and want approval. Well, it doesn't work that way necessarily. You got to get the approval first, and so on. And knowing those rules is paramount to their success. So it's important for us to try to teach them those rules, but it's also important for them, as the commissioner said, to be responsible enough to know what's going on. We can't hold everyone's hand. That's the point. So, but great job, Sawyer.
I mean, we expect that from our utilities.
Yep.
They are familiar with our rules. That goes to with the solar industry as well.
And we're not insinuating that some people don't follow the rules, of
No.
course.
Of course not.
But there are penalties to pay for that, and they're generally financial. They lose money or whatever, and it's because of their ignorance of the rules. So, if there are no other questions, Madam Secretary, roll call.
Commissioner, on the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delou?
Yes.
And President Fiordaliso?
Yes. Sawyer, thank you. Mr. Ferris, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you. President, Commissioners, this presentation is a little bit lengthy, so I'll ask you and the public to please bear with me as I read through it. This agenda item pertains to staff's recommendation that the board make a formal request to PJM Interconnection LLC, or PJM, to include New Jersey's current goal of 11,000 megawatts of offshore wind by 2040 into PJM's Regional Transmission Expansion Planning, or RTEP, using the PJM program known as the State Agreement Approach, or SAA. The board has long recognized that limits on the existing transmission system, as well as the challenges associated with expanding or replacing transmission facilities, represent a major source of cost uncertainty and potential risk of delays in meeting the state's offshore wind goals. On November 18, 2020, the board formally requested that PJM incorporate the state's then goal of 7,500 megawatts of offshore wind by 2035 into the RTEP using the SAA. Staff and PJM developed an SAA solicitation, and at the close of the proposal window, PJM received 80 project proposals from 13 different applicants. After a thorough review by board staff, PJM, and the board's consultant, on October 26, 2022, the board awarded a series of projects to construct the onshore transmission facilities necessary to successfully deliver 7,500 megawatts of offshore wind to New Jersey customers. New Jersey ratepayers will realize hundreds of millions of dollars in savings from the selection of these transmission projects, compared to the estimated cost of transmission facilities that would otherwise be necessary to achieve New Jersey's 7,500 megawatt goal in the absence of the SAA solicitation. In the October 26, 2022 order, the board directed staff to begin the necessary preliminary steps to support a future SAA process to enable the transmission of New Jersey's new goal of 11,000 megawatts of offshore wind generation to occur in a coordinated manner for the benefit of ratepayers. The item before you today is the first step in the process of initiating the second SAA. Staff recommends that the board direct PJM to seek potential transmission solutions for 3 interrelated components of an open access offshore wind transmission system, including upgrades to the onshore PJM regional grid, construction of the necessary shore crossings, and connecting the new or existing onshore substations to new offshore substations, and connecting different offshore substations serving various lease areas in an effort to network the projects in these lease areas. As in the first SAA, staff notes that there are several safeguards in place to protect New Jersey ratepayers through the SAA process. First, approval of the item before you today does not include authorization from the board for PJM to move forward with selecting any potential project. Once projects are proposed through the second SAA solicitation, the SAA allows the board to evaluate the proposals in concert with PJM. Only after full consideration of the proposals would the board be asked to commit New Jersey consumers to funding any projects selected by the board. Alternatively, the board may elect to terminate the process and not select any of the proposed projects. There are no financial obligations associated with any step before the final decision of the board, and those obligations would only arise should the board determine to move forward with one or more of the proposed solutions resulting from the PJM RTEP process. Second, PJM's RTEP rules contain extensive protections for ratepayers, including cost containment options and the ability to incorporate phased implementation of any transmission upgrades. These provisions allow the state and PJM to consider such items as the financial strength of any construction scheduling commitments and the developer's incorporation of voluntary cost caps into their bids. Staff notes that such legally binding commitments and other forms of cost risk mitigation are likely to weigh heavily on whether an integrated transmission solution may be the more efficient or cost-effective means to reach New Jersey's offshore wind goals. Third, the board may have to address concerns regarding the transfer of commercial risk between transmission developers and generation developers prior to approving a final coordinated transmission solution that may result from the second SAA. Staff and PJM will encourage entities bidding into the second SAA to consider how their submitted cost caps and other binding obligations may relate to the interconnection of qualified offshore wind generation projects. The exploration of coordinated transmission alternatives through the second SAA does not impact how previously awarded or to be awarded projects, injecting a total of 7,500 megawatts of offshore wind into New Jersey, will interconnect into the PJM system. Those projects will interconnect as delineated in the applicable board orders approving the qualified offshore wind projects. Finally, staff and the board continue to work with other East Coast states that have offshore wind programs to explore and investigate opportunities for coordinating on a regional offshore wind transmission solution, up to and including a regional offshore wind backbone transmission system. While the second SAA is being initiated as a New Jersey-only effort, discussions with other states and federal stakeholders in this important area are continuing, and modifications to the second SAA order can be made if necessary to advance a regional offshore wind transmission solution. Staff recommends that the board approve an order formally requesting that PJM consider the state's new offshore wind goal of 11,000 megawatts as a public policy of the state of New Jersey, and that PJM incorporate the new goal into the RTEP process via the SAA.
Jim, before well said, but before I ask for a motion, would you mind, for the benefit of our new employees and some of the folks who may be listening via feed, what PJM is?
PJM is our regional transmission grid operator. It covers, I believe, I'm going to probably get this number wrong, 12 states or
13.
13, I was close.
NDC.
It includes all or portion of 13 states and the District of Columbia. It is the largest regional grid organization in the country.
And how do they interact with states? Do they help get energy to us? What do they do?
Yes, PJM operates the grid that ultimately transmits electricity to consumers. They incorporate generation from all sources, from all of those 13 states, and operate the grid as efficiently, cost-effectively, and as reliably, most importantly, as they can.
Right. Thank you. And there are other RTOs, regional transmission organizations throughout the United States. We're not the only one, but we are the largest, and which is an entity that we have to deal with on a daily basis sometimes. So and as far as the SAA is concerned, this is a mechanism to see if it benefits the state of New Jersey in cooperation with PJM?
Yes, it is certainly in cooperation with PJM. The SAA, the State Agreement Approach, is a PJM program that states can take advantage of by asking PJM to incorporate a public policy into their regional transmission planning process. Using the SAA, and we certainly saw this in the first use of the SAA, should result in cost savings to consumers because it addresses the necessary transmission system upgrades in one process, rather than each offshore wind project doing their own transmission upgrades on a piecemeal basis. Being able to capture all of the energy that needs to be transmitted through the SAA process, we believe in the second instance will result in savings to consumers, and we certainly saw that that was the result in the first SAA.
Thank you, Jim. I'll accept the motion to accept the recommendation.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments?
A comment.
Yes.
As you indicated, this is basically we're reserving a spot to some extent for the build-out of this particular policy goal. And as you indicated, we're not obligating ourselves to use it. We all are aware that there are multiple, wind projects being developed in the area. And there's been a lot of discussion at, different conferences that we've gone to. I know, President Fiordaliso has said this as well, that, there's a real need for a regional approach, and that we're exploring that as well, because, we don't know what's coming down the line, how it's going to be built out, and if what eventually gets built, even under the SAA, may end up being, what's that mall that never, that never gets used. So you have to, what was it, the Dream Mall or something like that, whatever. American Dream, right. So, while, things are well-intentioned, there's, pretty much agreement across the board that, a regional approach, and hopefully this will encourage others to, work with New Jersey and to develop a more regional solution for transmission for this industry. And I just lost my train of thought, but, that's, important. And with respect to, our staff, in large part, our FERC staff has been involved in helping to develop the requirements and work with PJM because they're so intertwined. That's another area where we need to beef up and bring people in. I think we have under a contract or a consultant with an outside law firm maybe could be doing a little bit more work in, I'd like to hear about, really putting some real effort into, helping you get more, address those regional issues, and that we should be working as diligently in trying to get to that solution as the SAA solution. I have no objection to doing them in tandem, but, we really need to put, if you're going to put the pedal to the metal and getting this built, arriving at that regional solution in order to, that it does not all fall on the ratepayers in New Jersey. And, I'm not telling you anything you don't know or don't intend to do, but, for benefit of those who may be listening and working on development to, reach out to us and hopefully, get the help we may need in order to reaching those types of solutions.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Maybe just just briefly, first of all, I've been to the American Dream, and it's an amazing place. You can go skiing in August and swimming in January, so it is open. Just want to make that clear. So PJM, really, the largest grid operator for 65 million Americans, is an amazing organization that you guys interact with every day. But consumers interact with every moment because they really require moment-by-moment additions and subtractions from the electric grid, which we take for granted. But the thing, Jim, that you told me, which was very encouraging, because some of my concerns have to do with organizational process and things like that, that the evaluation process that PJM is going to use for this is a parallel track with the evaluations they're going to be using for other existing projects. So it will not delay any of the other projects. This will be done separate and away from other things. So it will not impact the queue, which is really an important part for developers and for all of us to understand. And that's a very smart approach to it. So great for working with that.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah.
Sure. One other thing, yeah. The other, unknown in this whole matter is what's happening down, at FERC and at PJM with regard to the queue and transmission generally. That may totally affect, how we proceed in the future, how those questions are answered, what rules come out, of these NOPers and A-NOPers, and what, are, on dual tracks. So, we have to be cognizant of be able to pivot if need be on our, goals of objectives based on what comes out of those
Right. That's true.
proceedings.
And I know that Jim and the offshore wind team are very flexible in their feet, and they bob and weave well. Is that right?
I don't bob and weave as well as I used to, Mr. President, but the team does, yes.
I only bob, I don't weave anymore. But yeah, I mean, this is exciting stuff, and it points out too that we just don't go into these initiatives willy-nilly.
That's right.
There's an awful lot of research that goes into it. How's it going to affect the ratepayer? That's number one. How is it going to move us forward in achieving our goal? All of these things have to be evaluated before we say, yes, let's pull the trigger, so to speak. Let's move forward. Because these are not easy decisions to make. Some of them are very complicated initiatives. So for the benefit of our new people, if you didn't understand a word that happened today, don't worry about it, because I only understood about 30% of it. But it takes a while to learn. Most of us take for granted when we walk into a room, we turn the light on, and we expect the light. But there's an awful lot that goes on behind the scenes in order for that light to come on. And PJM is responsible for that reliability. The Board of Public Utilities is responsible for that reliability. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, is responsible for that delivery. So there are many agencies involved in ensuring the fact that your home is warm in the winter, that you have lights, that you don't have to read by the candlelight. There's an awful lot that goes on behind the scenes in order to do that. And we have an extremely important role in that whole equation. The Board of Public Utilities, people like to say, keep the lights on for New Jersey. And in our regulation of our utilities, many times not in an adversarial way. Our utilities have been very cooperative over the years, for the most part. But our job is to make sure they play nice in the sandbox, and that the ratepayer in the state of New Jersey is getting the kind of service that they pay for. And that's obviously one of the most important parts of our job. In addition to initiating clean energy programs to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels and hopefully mitigate effects of climate change. We have an awesome responsibility here, one that is exciting every single day you come into work, because not every day is the same. There are always challenges. Many of these initiatives, particularly in the clean energy arena, we've never done before. So we're going to hit potholes. We're going to hit challenges. Our job is to figure out how to avoid those potholes, how to overcome those challenges. And we have an outstanding staff to do that. So as usual, Jim, you and your offshore team, wonderful job. I think we have to reemphasize the fact this does not obligate the board to anything, as you indicated, and we look forward to the next time we see you and where we're at that point.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
On a motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal DeLue?
Yes.
And President Fidelisa?
Yes. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
I believe that's it, unless I missed something. Do any of my colleagues have any parting statements they would like to make? I think we talked a lot today, didn't we? So, with that, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
We are adjourned.
See you, Marianne.
Bye, Mariana.
Back to my meeting.